Hi guys, welcome to my channel Lush Gardener. I hope you guys are fine and are safe. So we have already spoken about how to do a stem cutting, how to callus succulents, what to do once the succulents have calloused and once they have aerial roots, how to repot them. We have spoken about all of these topics. If you have not watched the video, I'll put both the links in the description below. You can check them out. Now in this video, we'll be only talking about the stems that are still remaining in the pot. Once we had done the stem cutting, we had taken the upper portion of the succulent and the remaining part was still present in the pot. As you can see, this one was still in the pot. So we're going to leave these stems as it is in the pot. We are going to let them callus as well because you know that there are cuts which have to get healed and dried. Now guys, this is how the pot looks after I think approximately a month or so. You can see all of those stem cuttings have started to produce a lot of pups. Now this is the reason why I usually do not repot my succulents, but I simply go ahead and do a stem cutting. So in this way you can see the amount of pups that are present on the stem. Now this is only one of the pot. Now this is a Graptoveria marpin that was done with a stem cutting and you can see the amount of pups. So in this video we'll be talking about how we can take care of these stems that are still present in the pot. Now the first and the most important thing, you do not need to remove these stems out of the pot. You have to leave them as it is because they already have a really well established mature roots in the pot, so we do not want to disturb them. So we are going to leave those stems as it is in the pot. This is another variety of Ceraria blue elf. I had even done a stem cutting of this particular variety and the remaining part of the stem was left in the pot as it is. Now you can see the amount of pups that are present on this stem. I think it might not be very visible, but I'm just going to put some shadow on this stem so it will be much easier for you to notice. So this is how the stem cuttings tend to work. You can see the amount of pups that have started to emerge on this stem. Now this usually takes around let's say a month or so. Again, it completely depends upon the environment and the climate that you have. That brings us to another point. When is the right time to do a stem cutting? Because as we all know that succulents tend to go dormant in different seasons. So right now we will be entering into the winter season. So during the winter season, the only common succulent that we have is an Echeveria that tends to go dormant during the winters. Rest all the other succulents like your Crassulas, Sedums, Seduverias, Graptoverias, Graptopelaums, Graptovedums, Pachyphytums, Pachyverias, all of these would be entering into their growing period. So this is the right time. What I would suggest is if you're going to do a stem cutting right now, probably by the time the summers kick in, your pups would be reaching a size of around an inch or maybe. Again, that completely depends upon how well you take care of the stem. If you're going to take very good care of the remaining part of the stem in the pot, then probably by the next summer you should be having pups that would be around an average size of 1 inch. But again, that completely depends upon the environment and the type of care you give. As you can see over here, I have a couple of these stem cuttings that I had done. All of them have started to put out a lot of pups. They have reached almost a decent size. Now this is my Echeveria PVN. I had done a stem cutting and you can see the size of the pup. As I've always said that stem cuttings are much faster compared to leaf propagation. You can see the size of this Echeveria PVN. I think this was cut almost I think approximately 2 to 3 months back, and this is the leaf propagation, the leaf that happened to fall during the time of stem cutting. So you can see the major difference between the size. The leaf propagation definitely takes a lot of time. This leaf propagation is around I think 3 months old or 3 to 4 months old. I'm not quite sure when was the stem cutting done, but definitely it was done within a time frame of 3 to 4 months. So you can see the vast difference in growth. The stem cutting has definitely a very good growth rate. It's much faster compared to leaf propagation. Another important thing, guys, it's not necessary that all the stems would be successful. Again, this completely depends upon how well you take care of the stem. Like over here, as you can see, this particular stem has completely dried out. I initially thought that must be probably due to overwatering, but then I realized it's due to dryness, because this particular stem was also on the same pot and it's doing quite well. You can see there is a small little pulp that is starting to grow. So probably the other stem happened to dry out. Probably it didn't work out really well, but that's what happens. It's not that you're gonna have success rate every time. There are some casualties that do happen with stem cutting as well, and that's absolutely fine. Now here I have I think this is my Graptopelaum ghosty. It has also started to put out a lot of pups. Now what I've noticed is Graptopelaums, Graptoverias, and they tend to grow really fast compared to other stem cuttings. As you can see, even the stem cutting has been doing quite well. You can see the leaf propagation. There was a leaf that was in this pot which has already put out a pup, but doesn't look very good in condition. The mother leaf has completely dried off, but it's absolutely fine. You can see the pups on the stem, the amount of pups, they tend to grow really fast. Again, this is another variety of Graptopelaum ghosty. As you can see, I had done a stem cutting. The mother leaf was cut off from here, and this is the new pup that has started to come up. This has almost reached I think it is almost 1 to 2 centimeter in size, the pup. So if I want, I can go ahead and separate it, but I'm going to leave it on the mother plant as of now, because when they are attached with the mother plant, they tend to grow slightly faster. Again, over here, as you can see, now this is a leaf propagation, because at times when you do a stem cutting, you end up dropping some leaves. So you can see, let me compare the size of the leaf propagation. You can see the leaf propagation also does quite well with Graptopelaums. They tend to propagate really fast, but again, the size of the pup is really small as compared to the stem cutting. You can see the pups on the stem cutting are much bigger than what it is with the leaf propagation. So I always prefer to do a stem cutting. It's much easier. It's much hassle free. You do not need to be worried whether they are going to root or no, because in leaf propagation at times we do not have the roots take a lot of time, or at times the mother leaf tends to die off. So in this case, I feel a stem cutting is much easier, and the rate of growth is also quite more as compared to what we have with leaf propagation. So this is how it tends to look like. The stem cuttings really work out well. Again, another leaf, it's taking a while, and this is so funny, guys. Over here you can see this leaf, it has put out so much of roots, but there is no pup, because I remember someone asking me that my succulent leaves have put out roots but there are no pups. Now this completely depends upon the leaf. There is nothing much we can do, but I find it really funny looking at this leaf with roots. The roots look really funny, like a wig. So again, this completely depends. We can't do much about it. It completely depends upon the leaf when it wants to put out the pup. Usually the roots tend to come out really fast, but the pup takes a lot of time. Again, it completely depends. We can't do much with that. So what I can do is I can just go ahead and put it back into the soil. This was probably laying above the soil. That's the reason why the roots have turned so dark pink in color, because it was constantly getting a lot of light. Once the roots get into the soil, that's when they start turning white in color. But when they're exposed to too much of light, they start getting this really bright pink in color. Again, these bright pink colored leaves, roots are not very harmful. They're absolutely healthy, just like normal white roots. But yes, the moment you start putting them into the soil, the colors will change. It will eventually start turning white. Talking about watering, it's pretty simple to water your stem cuttings. You can use a bottle like this, or anything that has a pointed nozzle. You can use a ketchup bottle. You can even use syringes in order to water your stem cuttings. You have to ensure that the water does not fall on the stem or on the leaves. Now, I'm not saying that it's going to lead to rot, but again, if it's your bad day, that might even happen. So it's always better to take precautions. Just water the soil and that's it. It's pretty simple. You do not need to, flush rush water everywhere. Just water the soil and you're good to go. Try to maintain a slight moisture in the soil. Do not overwater it. You basically need to maintain slight moisture but not soggy wet soil. Now guys, if you remember, this was my Graptoveria Purple Delight. I think I had made a video on this and I was talking about if I'm going to take good care of it, I might end up having a good amount of pups. This video is there in my library. You can check it out. It was a complete care guide video on Graptoveria Purple Delight. And this is how it looks right now. You can see the size of the pups. They have really grown very well. So basically, if you are going to take very good care of them, if you're going to water them correctly, if you're going to have a proper watering schedule, if you're going to give them the right amount of light, they will absolutely grow fine. There is no issue with that. Talking about the light requirement, I would advise you do not put them out in direct sunlight. Even for that matter, don't put them out in morning direct sunlight because they are still small little pups. They might happen to get burnt. They are still not established completely in order to protect themselves from direct sunlight. So even morning direct sunlight, please avoid it. Keep it in indirect bright light. It will do quite well. Again, you can see the soil is very loose. You can use the same soil, but again, we are not repotting it, so it's going to remain in the same pot. So ensure that the soil that you have used is loose, porous and well draining. This will definitely help the pups grow much faster. It will help the succulent do quite well, because remember, overwatering is not an option over here. Even though there are no succulents on this, even though it's only pups, if you are going to overwater it, the stem will start to rot. There will be root rot, so you have to be extremely careful. Try to maintain a very slight moisture, but do not overwater them. Now watering again for this is pretty simple. I water the same way as you can see. Just take a bottle with a nozzle and just water the soil. Just keep watering it and try to evenly moist the soil. Do not drench it completely with water. Again, you can do a complete watering whenever you tend to feel that your soil is completely bone dry. Do not let the soil stay dry for a really long time, because usually in our adult succulents, we tend to let the soil dry completely and then we wait for a couple of days for them to water, or at times we tend to water immediately once the soil is bone dry. But over here, do not keep the soil dry for a really long time. Try to maintain this very slight moisture in the soil, because as you know, even though the stem is mature but the pups are really small, they require a little bit more water as compared to the adult succulents. The same way how we tend to water our leaf propagation, we need to follow that same watering schedule. So once you're done completely watering, now over here guys, I'm not watering it too much because I'm just giving you an example. I'm using a table. If I happen to overwater it, or if I happen to water it completely, the water will start running out of the drain hole and it will mess up the table. But you are getting an idea what I'm trying to say over here. Once the soil is completely dry, you can go ahead and do a complete watering. There is another method you can do watering is by bottom watering. Take a container, fill it with water and then gently place the pot that you want to water. Just place the pot in the container with water and just wait. It usually takes around 5 to 10 minutes. Again, depends upon the size of the pot, and slowly the water will start getting into the pot through the capillary action. And once you see that the upper layer of soil is completely wet, you can then take it out and let it settle. Now talking about fertilizers, it completely depends upon you. I haven't used any fertilizers over here and you can still see the growth is quite good. But if you are a person who wants to use fertilizers, then please go for a liquid based fertilizer. Ensure you do not over fertilize them. Probably you can do it once a month or once in 2 months during the growing period, and that's absolutely fine. But please do not over fertilize them, otherwise it will make your stem cuttings very weak. Another issue that you might face is with mealy bugs, because the stem cuttings are very tender and the pups are really small, so the mealy bugs tend to attack them easily. So ensure that you do a routine check. The moment you see probably there is 1 or 2 mealy bugs, you immediately need to jump into action and start getting rid of them at an early stage, because the more you wait, the infestation will increase. So whatever solutions you have been doing till now, whatever you have found good for your succulents, try to use them and eradicate the infestation at the early stage. So guys, I hope that this video was helpful to you. If it was, please hit the like button. If you're new to my channel, please consider subscribing to it. Until then, take care, stay safe and keep propagating.